everybody. We're glad to have everyone here for the next podcast in the Housing Equity Task Force of the Lower Susquehanna Synod. We're part of the Justice Ministries of the Synod. I'm Pastor Matthew Best. I serve as pastor of Christ Lutheran Church in Harrisburg and also the chair of the task force. We also have Pastor Jillian Riddle and Pastor Jennifer Toberin, who are in the background making sure everything's working out great. And so today we're really excited to have some real special guests because we're going to talk about homelessness in a different type of setting. And so we have with us today, we have Deb Little, who is the director of Gettysburg Cares. We have Pat Arndt, who is the chair of the board. And we have Pastor Andrew Geib, who is the pastor here at St. James in Gettysburg. Welcome to all of you.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to ask you, you were telling me a little bit, showing me as I was being shown around, do you know what CARE stands for? So tell us, what does CARE stand for?
Combined Area Resources for Emergency Shelter.
So tell us, what does that mean? Like, that's a whole lot of words. What does that mean?
It means the community is supporting us in many ways. And
Okay.
the community is not just the people out there, it's the area churches and volunteers. And so we're here and at their support. We wouldn't be here without the community.
Right. So what are some of those supports that the community helps out with?
Money.
Oh, that's a good thing.
Money's always
Yes.
a good one. Time is very important. They help. We couldn't do this whole program that we do with Showering at Night if it wasn't for the volunteers, because that's how we're based. Is we have 2 volunteers every night overseeing anything that might need to be at area churches. And then it's changed. The model has changed this year where we're staying in St. James totally. But still the volunteers are coming in to St. James. They're the ear to the community.
Yeah.
They're the ones that know what's going on, where the apartments are, where the jobs are, and just listening. They're there because they want to be. No one's saying you're getting paid to be here. They're there just initially because they want to be and they care.
So let's take the folks who are going to be listening through what happens. Somebody comes to St. James, to the door of St. James, and what happens? Because they're in need. And walk us through what it's like for somebody who is coming to Gettysburg Cares.
We have to back it up a lot more before St.
Great.
James, okay? The initial thing that they would do is they would contact CARES. And the first thing that we're going to request in our procedure that we utilize is that they need to go to the Gettysburg Borough Police and get a warrant check to make sure that there's no outstanding warrants, okay?
Uh-huh.
And then once they bring that mighty form back to us, at that point we sit down and we start an intake process. So we're discussing how we got here, and what their needs are. And at that point we're also telling what our policies are and what our boundaries are and what's expected and where you are and where you sleep and just what's going on around you kind of thing. And then at 8:10 every night they all come to the shelter because there's a resource center that they're in through the day. That's open from 8 in the morning till 8 p.m. at night, and that's where they can get showers, do laundry, get case management, utilize the computers, apartments, job searching, and then at 8:10 they come over here and then they have 2 hours interacting with the volunteers, and we do have 1 paid overnight staff until 10 o'clock having tea, hot chocolate, maybe some popcorn, just relaxing after the day. And then at night at 10 o'clock they go to, they each have a cot and a mat with 2 blankets. And we have a men's room, we have a women's room, and we have several family rooms, which we are utilizing this season.
Yeah.
And they're there till the morning. They get up, they clean everything up, and they leave and go to the St. James Youth House, which is next to the Resource Center.
Okay.
And area churches serve them breakfast every day of the year. Okay.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
So that's sort of how and then at 8 o'clock, breakfast is over and we're back at the resource
Back-
center.
back
So we're
over.
24/7
Okay.
in that whole process.
What happens at the resource center?
At the resource center, they can do many things. They can get showers, they can do laundry, they get case management, resources that are available
Yeah.
in the area, some place to get warm, some place to hang out, some place to
Yeah.
communicate, just a place to be as you're transcending into your next
Right.
sustainable housing is
Right.
what we all want for them.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about how did this get started? Like, where would the idea come from? And
This is modeled originally after Carlisle Cares.
okay.
And we took a trip over there pretty much like you're doing today
Uh-huh.
to learn how they operate. And so we bought their model here, and their model was for the area churches to rotate. And so we had 12 area churches that participated, and so 2 weeks they would stay, and then the mats and everything would be moved to the next church, so that just continued to rotate from church to church. And eventually, we kind of were fortunate enough to have St. James to offer us a permanent place where they can stay at nighttime, so that we don't have to have a bus come pick them up for the outlying churches in the country, or in the snow, they don't have to trudge through the snow to walk a couple blocks to the next church. So
Right.
they were
And how-
very fortunate.
How long has Gettysburg Cares been
We
going
started in 2012,
Okay.
and so this is our 11th year. In September we'll start our 12th year.
on? Okay. Wow.
So we've
And
been-
and how many people usually are you seeing over the course of time here?
We're full. We're
Yeah.
a little bit
We're
on the
at
edge of full
capacity.
right now.
Okay.
Our number is 30.
Okay.
That's what we felt that we could
Mm-hmm.
truly take care of, and especially with the changing of churches. And this season we've been running 30 plus. You
Okay.
know, we have 10 children right now.
Mm-hmm.
In the resource center. So we've been running full, and I will tell you that pretty much every day we're turning down
Yeah.
people because we just can't take
Right.
anymore, unfortunately.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about that, since you brought up about children. And we were talking about this a little bit before, that there's a stereotype that is around homelessness, of who is homeless, what they look like, how they act, all this type of stuff. And there's also a difference as far as what urban homelessness looks like versus rural versus suburban, all that type of situation. All of these are very unique and different. And so maybe you could tell us, what does homelessness look like in the Gettysburg area?
Homelessness in the Gettysburg area is pretty much through CARES. What I see through
Yeah.
having the CARES facility, it's almost like a big Brady Bunch.
Okay.
Because we're all sort of in this house
Mhm.
with all these different personalities, and I'm not going to tell you there are never issues. There
Sure.
are, but for the most part, it goes very smoothly. You know, and we just set the boundaries very strong, okay, and you know, try to respect everybody and hear everybody, but just you have to keep it consistent. As long as you keep it consistent,
Yeah.
and everybody knows what the balance is, it works. You know,
Mhm.
we're very blessed and it works. Now without St. James is a strong supporter of
Yeah.
us. You know, in the resource center, that is their building. In the youth house, that is their building. In the church, you know, so St. James really comes in very strong for us.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
so-
we wouldn't exist without the facilities to house and to provide for them.
So I want to ask you, Andrew, why is this so important for the congregation to be a part of this?
I mean, St. James has been a part of the Gettysburg Cares program since the very beginning. I think I shared with you that our previous lead pastor, Pastor Michael Allwine, was part of the foundational team that really got Gettysburg Cares started, and so it's been a part of this community from the very beginning. And I think before they were here for the full time over the 6-month period, it was an important ministry for our members. They would volunteer for overnights. They would help out at the soup kitchen when breakfast, when meals were taking place there. And I think for many people, they really were looking for other ways for the CARES residents to become involved in the life of the congregation. But when they're here for 2 weeks, that's a little bit more difficult. And so when the possibility came about CARES coming here for the full season, the conversations started happening. And it really was interesting to watch it unfold. There were certainly concerns. People were worried about what it would mean for the building and what it would mean for the staff, what it would mean for me, if there would be pastoral burdens, all this kind of stuff. I think for me, the biggest concern was that I didn't want people in the community to think that this was just a St. James thing. You know, it was so important that the other churches would stay involved and that people would know that. But we had conversations at council, and council talked about a lot of the concerns and a lot of the possibilities. And then it went to the congregation for a conversation. And certainly some concerns were raised, but the vast majority of people were just wondering what else we could be doing. And that's what we've seen since. People are constantly calling, asking us if there are needs, if there are things that they can do to help. We have doctors in the congregation who have wondered about volunteer stuff, if there's mental health resources for folks, if there's ways for people to help with housing, all these kinds of things. And so I think since it's happened, it's been a wonderful thing. I was sharing with you earlier that we do midweek meals before our worship services during Advent and Lent. And this past Advent, it was great to watch the families from CARES eat with the families from St. James.
That's great.
And the little kids play together, you know,
Yeah.
before worship started. So I think for me, what I've seen within the community here at St. James, it's really just all about relationships. They understand that homelessness can happen in the blink of an eye and for a million different reasons. I have not felt the stereotype at all from our people. It's really just been how we can help and what else we can be doing.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
It
So-
really is a non-judgment zone. It
Yeah.
really is, I feel.
So maybe both of you could tell us how did you get into this? Why? What's the passion behind it?
For me, I have always been in this wheelhouse kind of work, trying to help, you know, welfare to work, whatever, you know, to help people move forward, okay? And I actually retired, and all of a sudden they started talking to me, and it really was a purpose for me. It truly is a purpose for me, and one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
great to interact with our guests, to, you know, advise, give resources, to guide. You know, I've been in this town networking for a long time, and to be able to utilize these resources to help and move forward is just, it's a blessing,
Yeah,
you know.
that's beautiful. How about you, Pat?
For me, I was associate pastor at Gettysburg Church of the Brethren,
Oh, okay.
and I was asked to be on the CARES board and to be part of the foundational work that we did with the ministerium to get it all started. And I've seen how it's grown from, we didn't have a resource center at that time. We just worked out of the, I think Mary worked out of the soup kitchen
Okay.
for a while. Our founding mother, Mary Stevenson, and it just kind of kept growing and growing, and we just started hiring staff, and so things just kind of came to the resource center to be able to provide that piece for them, and to have that goal of finding a home.
Yeah.
Everybody needs a home,
Yeah.
and so that's what's at my heart. I just always know that I grew up in poverty, and so for me to be able to see and to help somebody get a fresh start means a lot, and so I just want to help wherever I can.
And I think you brought to mind one of the biggest things that I've ever heard is sometimes we asked our guests, what does CARES mean to you?
Yeah.
And right around Christmas, I had a mother just looked at me one day and said, "It feels like almost home."
Oh, wow.
You know, that was,
Yep.
it doesn't get any better than that, you know?
Right.
And that just, I was like, wow, that was just, it resounded with me, and I will never forget that.
That,
What a compliment.
yeah, that just really just
Mhm.
says a lot about the program, about the people, about here's the purpose that has really kind of come through in what you're doing.
And I can tell you that daily I get thanked for saving lives, you
Mm.
know, and I am forever telling them it is not me,
Sure.
it's a higher being,
Right.
but I'm really glad that we could be that tool right now, but a lot of gratitude.
Yeah.
That's what I find is a lot of gratitude.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's plenty of challenges.
There are plenty of challenges, there are plenty of challenges.
Right.
But when you look at the end of the day or the end of the week, it's always rewarding.
Yeah.
You know, it's always, even the negatives that might happen,
Yeah.
the goods are more than, you know, than money can buy. I mean, that sounds
Sure.
cliche, but
Yeah, yeah.
the feeling is just, there's a lot of positive.
So
Yeah.
maybe you can tell me a little bit about some of the trends that you're seeing, because you had, before you had mentioned about that there's 10 children
Yeah.
who you have been helping out. You know, has that been a consistent thing? Has that been growing? Are there other segments of the community that you've seen an increase in?
The aged population, the
Mhm.
elderly population, I'm seeing more elderly, more
Mhm.
mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Affordable housing is an issue.
Sure.
I'm seeing more people in the shelter that are employed. You know,
Mhm.
homelessness does not
Right.
offer that of not being employed. They are employed, but they
Yeah.
do not make a sustainable wage
Yep.
to ascertain affordable housing. And so I would say for the last 2 years, we were, due to COVID, we were running a little bit differently. We had booster shots.
Sure.
But this year we opened it up. But I think I'm seeing a lot more children, a lot more elderly, and a lot more mental health issues. Don't you agree? Yes.
Yeah, so a lot more people on the margins of society that we're called to care for as
Yeah.
as Christians. Yeah, right. I mean, that's a big part of it. I already answered a lot of these questions. This is where you can edit out. So let's talk a little bit about, you know, this is an amazing program. Where do you get the funds, and where, you know, like, I know it's, as somebody who is director of a health ministries at a church, miracle is always the
Oh,
answer,
it is
right?
divine,
But
divine, but it's amazing.
Yeah.
It is amazing. I stood there in the office around Christmas time, and this is a community that is so very, very generous all the time, so very generous. I get overwhelmed here, but I stood in my office like around Christmas time, and it was just phenomenal.
yeah,
The amount of gifts and food and gift cards and just, it just totally blew my mind. For lack of a better term, but it was just so overwhelming because it is always super generous.
yeah,
And then it just went to another level, and I'm just sitting there thinking, I mean, it's just phenomenal.
yeah,
You know, it is a very, and even, you know, yesterday I get a phone call. I mean, I get these phone calls all the time. I got a phone call, Debbie, I'm on the way to Sam's. What can CARES use?
wow,
You know, and I'm like, okay, you know, well, you know, we need toilet paper, paper
Right,
towels,
right.
detergent, you know, because we have a house of 30-some, we go
Yeah.
through things.
oh, sure,
there. But I get phone calls like that several times a week,
Mhm.
you know, and I'll turn around and we just have delivery. People just bring paper towels and toilet paper and, you know, soups and, you know,
Yeah.
it's just a very generous community is the only thing that I can explain.
Yeah.
And, well, divine intervention always.
Of course, right.
Always.
Well, so far, we do not have any government funding coming in. It's all from the community, from Community Foundation is one of our big, when they have the giving spree once a year. that's a big fundraiser for us. And that's open to over 100 different organizations
Okay.
that are part of the Giving Spree, and CARES is part of that. So the community is generous there. We have a birthday party to celebrate every year, so that helps bring in some money, and the area churches all support, and so far this new way of doing it and having to have staff at nighttime
Yeah,
is a big expenditure.
sure.
And so we can just keep praying that the money will last, but
Uh-huh.
to pay somebody 24/7
Yeah.
is a lot. And so
So maybe you could tell us a little bit about, I think it was about 6 months ago that you went from going from a rotation of churches to now being here at St. James. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about why that change, how has that impacted you, you know, what's that been like?
it's kind of a blessing and a necessity for that transition to happen. And the churches were getting to the point where they were tired of doing the rotation thing,
Okay,
and they like coming in and doing breakfast in the mornings. So the churches are all still involved, and we still pull our volunteers from the churches.
Mhm.
And once every 2 weeks, Gettysburg Laundry Center out the Big River Road is offers their services to do our blankets every 2 weeks. So
oh wow.
we have
Okay.
that support. We have area restaurants at one time that were providing meals and still do. They'll stop by the center and drop meals off for people. So.
Trays of food,
Wow.
it's phenomenal. You know,
Yeah.
restaurant just, there's metal trays, it's phenomenal.
Wow, that's incredible. So what would you say some of the biggest challenges are for the folks who are coming to CARES for help?
I'd say the mental health issues that they have, we don't know until they're actually there living in the situation if they're going off their meds or not.
Sure.
And it would be wonderful to have some sort of a screening so that we know what their diagnosis is, what for medication they're taking, but we don't have that. And it's kind of, you have to dismiss some people because of their behavior, but
Sure.
so that's a big challenge, and the challenge for finding houses for them
Yeah.
to rent.
And employment,
Yeah.
it is another big issue too.
Yeah, I'm sure, right? And of course, you said before, affordable housing
Affordable
for
housing,
folks.
and even the mental health. I've in one season, someone that was totally rational, and then because of med changes,
Mhm.
affordable meds, and then Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, go
Right.
from rational to irrational, and so that's all that mental health aspect.
Right,
too.
and I would imagine a lot of the folks who are helping are not necessarily trained in working with folks who have mental health challenges.
They're not, but CARES was able to, with Healthy Adams, we're going to be offering some training this
Wonderful.
Saturday morning on suicide and mental health first aid.
That's
And
great.
we've opened it up to our volunteers and our staff, and really excited about that. Actually using the
wonderful.
youth house again, St.
Yeah.
James facility to house this. But yeah, we're hoping to get, some basic training for the people that would like it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So who are some of the partners that you have in this work? The other organizations that you partner with to really kind of help people get to whatever that next stage is of housing or the help? Because I imagine you can't do it all. So and I
No.
imagine you have some really essential partners that you work with. Who are those folks?
Well, the Housing Authority, and we
Okay.
interact well. Actually, SCAP, and we network well. The churches, is another partnership. The Community Foundation is another partnership. Healthy Adams, paid for our training, so anybody that I'm not, I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah, the Housing Thrive and
Thrivent, Community Foundation, pretty much anyone we reach out
Gettysburg
to.
Hospital, just,
Right,
And when you say cares, there's usually support.
yeah,
And like I said, St. James is a heavy one for
Yeah,
us.
absolutely,
Heavy
right.
hitter, yeah.
So is this the only, in the county, in Adams County, is this the only program that you know of that's like this?
it's the only one, yes.
Okay, all right, so when people are at either like the northern end of the county or kind of along the borders, like, how do they find out about it, and how do they, I guess a lot of folks need to have transportation to get here, and I'm sure there's challenges with that.
You're 100% right, there are challenges in transportation as well. We're listed on 211,
Okay.
which is like the 911,
Yep.
when people in need of housing call, and so we are one of the numbers there that they reach out to, and I think it's just networking, word of mouth, that kind of thing.
Okay,
Transportation, everything's on a day-by-day, moment-by-moment basis. We try to reach out where we can,
yeah,
assist where we can. The other day I had someone from North Carolina stuck somewhere. Her husband had just gone to jail. There was no car, and she's in the middle of nowhere. And we were able to talk her to where we knew Freedom Transit, the busing service, would go.
uh-huh,
You know, told her to get on, tell them where she was headed, because,
Uh-huh.
you know, it's, everyone knows that we're the shelter, and it all worked, you
Yeah.
know. I don't wanna get any bus driver in trouble or anything, but they brought him
Right.
in, so we just do whatever's necessary at the moment, whatever we can
mhm,
figure out.
yeah,
It's
Yeah.
not everybody is from Adams County
Right.
that ends up here. But once they're in that resource center,
yep,
they have an Adams County address.
okay,
And they get a homeless preference as well
okay,
with Housing Authority,
okay,
which means that their application moves to the top
oh,
of the
wow,
list.
okay,
And not that there aren't a lot of
Sure.
applications at the top
Right.
of the list, but it really does give them priority.
that's
You know,
wonderful.
because our goal is to try to, by April 15th, when we're shutting our doors, we would like to see as many people as possible in
Right.
sustainable housing.
Right, absolutely. So Andrew, maybe you could talk a little bit about the faith aspect of this, of,
Yes.
you know, you mentioned a little bit before about why it's important for the congregation to partner with CARES and open up your home essentially. Maybe you could talk a little bit about, you know, the faith aspect of why is this so important for churches, whether we're talking about homelessness or hunger or the so many other ways in which congregations provide services and try to really connect with people and be community with folks. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think the big thing is to remember that Gettysburg Cares is a community effort, you know. And so the ministerium churches in Gettysburg participate in this ministry. And I think for me, there's a whole lot of reasons in today's world, maybe particularly in the religious world, where we are different from one another.
Yep.
We can come up with a million reasons why we're not going to work together on certain things. But sacrificial service is one that we should be able to come together in.
Yeah.
To serve the needs of the most disenfranchised in the community. And we've seen that. And it's been really, for me, it's been a beautiful example to watch these congregations come together in an effort where we might disagree about many, many things, but yet we can do this good work together around this. And, you know, certainly for Christianity, this is at the core of who we are. How do we serve those who are disenfranchised? How do we reach out for our neighbors in need? We can all agree on this, right? This is a good thing for us to do, to feed, to house. I think for me here at St. James, I mean, I've walked into this. I mean,
Yeah.
this has been a simple thing for me. I think way too often we find all the wrong reasons to say no to things.
Right.
I think these Sundays after Epiphany, maybe especially, we've heard all these stories about Jesus gathering his disciples. When they don't say no, right? It's almost an automatic yes. And this has been an example of that. It's an opportunity for us to say yes to something. and just see what it brings. I mean, the disciples had no clue what it was going to mean to follow
Right.
Jesus. He didn't tell them,
Right.
you know.
It probably would have scared them off.
He probably would have, right?
Right.
And I think the other part of it too, right, is that the disciples were folks that didn't have the background and expertise to do this work. And so it's an example for us, even when we're feeling as though we don't have the gifts, to just say yes and jump in and see what happens.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think we could think about a million things. I mean, for me, the communion of saints, I mean, there are people who have come before me that have set this foundational work, volunteers that are no longer here who set this, you know, so that this could happen. I mean, there's a million, I think, reasons about faith that we could talk about why this is important. It's been a beautiful thing for me to watch unfold.
Yeah.
And I think, again, when we were just housing for 2-week periods, there wasn't an opportunity to build relationships in the ways that we've seen so far this year.
Yeah.
And for me, that is really at the center of what a faith community should be about. It's about relationships.
Yeah. Maybe one of you, or if any of you, can share, if you have stories of folks that, if you really want to, a story that really kind of captures what CARES is about for somebody who comes here and they connect with this organization, with the congregation. Can you share a story of somebody that has had, that kind of says, yeah, this is really what CARES is about?
There's many stories. You
Sure.
know, it's just thinking of it offhand. I think something that's sort of I don't want to say is real profound, but it really touched me, is one of our guests that were here for a season has moved on to sustainable housing,
Okay.
etc. And this year, Thanksgiving,
Mm-hmm.
called me actually on Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah.
They made a bunch of extra apple pies
Oh, wow.
and wanted to share them.
Oh, that's
That
awesome.
that to me was full circle. You know,
Yeah,
that was
right.
full circle.
Right.
We have some people that were guest of CARES that are now working in the community
Mhm.
and a part of the community.
Yeah.
You know, attending services here and
Right.
that kind of. And that's another thing that I really like that CARES does is every night when they're in the common room, we try to offer devotionals. So time where those that choose
Sure.
can come and have a moment. And I think that's important. You know, I think that's very important. But there's a lot of those stories where they give
Sure.
back, don't you think? Can you think of anything specific? I'm not.
There's a lot of success stories of seeing people walk out of there at the end of the season, walking to a new home, and that blesses me tremendously.
I'm sure.
And every time you can say that I was part of something that provided for someone else.
But the beautiful thing in what I just heard in your stories was this isn't just material healing. This is also, there's spiritual healing, there's relational healing, there's community healing. I mean, you're talking about scripture examples. You know, when Jesus is doing healing miracles, it's not just that individual who is physically cured. This is a social healing as well, and it has a communal impact as well, and that's what I hear in the stories that you're talking about.
And I think that thing that I always try to remember that is always in my mind is what would Jesus do? Showing love. You know, it's always important that we
Right.
show as Jesus would do, that we show that love, that we're that light.
Yeah.
You know, that we're that's important.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
it's more than just about the warm fuzzies of knowing
Yes.
that you did something nice
Right.
for someone. It's that commitment that you're part of it, and we have a wonderful board,
Yeah.
a working board who
Yeah.
works very hard. And the reality is it takes a lot of hard work. And Debbie puts in a lot of hours and our staff does, but we have a lot of volunteers, and
Yeah.
it's not easy work, it's hard work.
That's for sure.
It's amazing to me how all the gears run together and it all works. I
Yeah.
remember when I first came in, I was like, oh my gosh, how, you know, getting the blankets here and getting them laundered and,
Right.
you know, it was just, it's amazing how this community, it's just like lots of gears moving. It's just phenomenal. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Great. So what are some ways that congregations can help CARES?
Overnight volunteers.
Yeah, our overnight volunteers. And at my church, we have a young adult group that want to help. And they said, can we fix a bag with some things in it? I said, they've gotten bags and bags and bags over the holidays and things. I said, what I see they really need are haircuts.
Ah,
And so they're having a bake sale, and we're gonna
Yeah.
raise some money to see if we can offer haircuts for them.
beautiful.
And then I talked to a local organization today. I'm to
Yeah.
call them back on Monday, or actually on Thursday, for getting discounted haircuts.
Okay.
So taking that and putting it with,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, cleanliness is so very important, and that's an aspect of cleanliness.
I
Is to
mean,
be
I
able
just see it all the time. They
Yeah.
get that shower and it's just
Yeah.
like
They're a new person, right?
Yeah, for a new
Absolutely.
person, it's great. Yes.
Yeah, that's wonderful. What's the best way for either an individual or a congregation to reach out if they want to be able to support either with people volunteering or financial resources or with skills that they may have? I mean, you mentioned about haircuts. That's something that probably a lot of folks don't think about,
Yeah.
but I'm sure there are other type of skills that would be really helpful as well. What's the best way for
If they
folks?
can reach out to Debbie, you wanna give them the phone number?
It's director at gettysburgcares.org,
Okay.
okay, or 717-334-4195.
Okay.
Just get in touch with us, we'll get you, our training is minimal. It's a PowerPoint and a warrant check and an application. But just reach out for anything and we can assist you at that email address.
Is there also a website?
There is.
GettysburgCares.org.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that the easiest way for someone to give? Do you have like an online?
We
giving?
don't.
You don't? Okay, so in other words, they have to
It'd
talk
be
to
the
you.
director. They don't even have to talk to me. They just have to email me.
Say, "We wanna
Interested?"
give. We
Yeah,
wanna help."
yeah.
Okay, good.
But we are incorporating that more in our website. But
Yeah.
at this point, that would be the best way.
Okay. Let me ask you this question. This is one of the things that I'm a big proponent of, not recreating the wheel.
Okay.
You all have a wonderful program and an organization, and you know, this is where there's certainly a need. What would you say for, and this is for any of you, feel free to jump in, Andrew, on this, for congregations that are just kind of like, you know, we feel called to do something, we're not sure how to get started, and we're not even sure who to talk to, whether we're talking about homelessness or anything else. Do you have any recommendations for congregations on just diving into doing some kind of ministry? They're recognizing a need in their community. Do you have any recommendations on that?
Just jump in, basically. Just jump in. Now, of course, anyone that's interested in what we would do, we
Right.
would certainly share any
Sure.
information, any paper, anything we would share with someone. But you know, the hesitancy is where you get lost.
Yeah.
You just need to do it. You know, just
Don't wait for perfect, right?
no,
Because
no,
it's never gonna happen.
It's never gonna happen. Yeah,
That's
you
right.
just do it one day at a time. Go forward, and it's amazing. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
You may need to do some legwork and do some street ministry.
Uh-huh.
Get to know the people out
Yep.
there who are homeless, talk to them on the street, and then you can go from there to see, after you see the need.
You find out what they actually need. Let the people who have the need tell you
Yeah.
what the actual need is, as opposed to assuming.
Seeing what they
Right.
want.
Yeah. Andrew, do you have any?
Well, and I think too, also talking with the other community groups. I mean, again, this is not a St. James thing. It's, you know, Gettysburg Cares is here because of all of these different churches and organizations in the community. And so I think often we try to go at things on our own.
Yep.
But there's a lot of resources out there and people who are willing to jump in too. So talking to people, your neighbors.
You
and-
mean churches shouldn't try to do it
Working
all and be a
together.
silo? What?
Right.
That's crazy. Yeah, no, that absolutely. I agree with
And
you.
I hear from so many various churches in a week. I mean, it's United Methodist, St.
Yeah.
James, you know, the Brethren Church. I mean, it's
Right.
just, it's phenomenal.
That's
Yeah, I mean, we're not into any little category.
Yeah.
We're all just there.
Yeah, yeah.
It's great.
Did you want to?
And word spreads. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, so when we made the decision here to have Gettysburg Cares be with us for the 6-month period, during the cold weather months, we had a member who said, "What are they sleeping on?" You know, and when they saw the mattresses or what
The mats.
mats,
Yeah.
they felt like it just wasn't enough.
Wow.
And so they made the offer to purchase these cots, and it's not just here. I mean, people do this. We needed coffee, we needed juice. So pastors are announcing this in congregations,
Yeah.
and we got more juice and coffee, you know, than we know what to do with. And
Wow.
so people are looking for ways to help. They recognize the needs,
Yeah.
and I think just being able to say yes to this stuff is just huge, you know.
Yeah.
Be amazed what comes your direction.
Sure.
Like I said, the phone calls I get on a weekly basis. What do you need? What do you need? What do you need? And it's just phenomenal. It's
That's
just
incredible.
Jump in. It's easy. It's really
Yes.
very easy.
And I think too, how to partner with other ministries that are already happening. So there's a ministry in Gettysburg called Holiday Family Outreach that takes place here at St. James, but is not a St. James ministry. It's a community thing. We just happen to use the space that's here, and it's a Christmas gift operation for children and families in the community, and it runs through the United Way. And so they gather the applications, they tell them when the date is, and it was amazing this year when we did it. There were CARES guests who received gifts from this ministry, so they're working hand in hand with that group. But then people showed up who were receiving presents from Holiday Family Outreach and had coats that they wanted to donate somewhere.
Wow. Okay.
And they ended up over at Gettysburg Cares.
Wow.
So it's just interesting how the Spirit works through all these things,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't a coat drive. We weren't asking for that. Somebody that came to receive something brought something to give, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing how that can happen.
That's awesome.
And the Holiday Bureau right away, when we opened our season up, reached out to us.
Okay.
You know, saying, this is what we're doing. Do you have anybody? You know, so that's where, so it was once again a community effort.
That's great. Can you think of any additional questions that you want to?
So one of the things that I was just interested in hearing more about, so you were saying that you guys have been pretty much at capacity. When this, do you see mainly the same folks through the 6-month season, or do some folks kind of rotate out and then you're able to fill from your wait list? I was just curious to what degree this group is kind of together, for a lengthy
So-
period
I
of
would say
time.
75%.
Hang on a minute.
I'm sorry.
So because she doesn't have a mic.
Okay, sorry. Dennis.
So I'll ask the, I'll read
Okay.
in my own way.
Okay.
So as far as the folks who are coming here, over the course of the season, are they like all of the same folks? Do you have a kind of an intermix of new people all the time? Like, can you give us a sense of that kind of mix of who's coming here? How long are they typically with your program?
It's very fluid. It's on a daily basis. But I would say about 75%, 60 to 75% stay pretty standard.
Okay.
And the rest changing over. You know, I had a phone call just today or yesterday from an advocate for someone that's being brought here for a bench warrant that's going to be cleared up. And they need like a couple of days before, you know, that kind of thing, but they right away reached out to us. So it's forever fluid.
Yeah.
You know, and whenever anyone wants to know if we have an opening, I always tell them it's fluid and check on a daily basis.
Right.
Because what isn't today could be tomorrow.
Right.
You know.
Right. Absolutely. Great question. Yeah. Other questions that? Okay. Well then, what did I want to say? This is why we have editing.
Good, then I can check this way.
Yes.
Is she ready?
I guess I actually have one.
Yeah.
So when this shelter closes its doors on April 15th, those folks that aren't transitioned into housing, what other resources are there?
So I'll yeah.
Mhm.
So this is a seasonal shelter. April 15th is when you're done here. What happens after April 15th for folks?
We try to at that point have done all the housing authority that we can, get all the vouchers that we can, get all the Section 8s,
Yeah.
checked with various other shelters, trying to get them at least
Yeah.
secured a place in a structure that's not going to close. We do everything within our power, and we
Right.
pray a lot.
Yeah.
And just try to get them into sustainable housing, whatever
Yeah.
that looks like. We've been very fortunate the last few years and have been able to pretty much, everyone was in a good place
Wow.
till we closed. Now, the numbers were not as high as this year. So I don't know that we'll have the same outcome,
Okay.
but we'll strive for the same
Yeah.
outcome.
Yeah, but this is one of those things that it speaks, I think, to how complicated that homelessness is. It's not just a house issue, a shelter issue. It's so many different facets that
So many.
all work in together, and so it makes it so difficult to help people climb out of that black hole that they've been caught in.
It is. And I'd be the first to tell you I pray a lot, okay?
I can't imagine any other
No,
way.
and we just do the best that we can.
Right.
Try to
Right.
help the best that we can, and we have a community, many, various churches, volunteers that support us.
Yeah.
And the volunteers that come in, I've said, are an ear to the community, which there's sometimes housing that comes through there.
Oh, sure.
Job, I've had volunteers call me and say, oh, so-and-so wanted this maintenance job, they're hiring here. Let them
Yeah.
know, kind of thing, and we've had that go on, so they're always interacting, always
Yeah, that's
thinking,
great.
so it was very supportive, yeah.
That's wonderful.
So I guess I do have one question, mainly about the children that are in the, and especially if there are like school-age children and things like that. How is this along like a bus, as far as like busing to make sure that they get to school? How do you kind of keep routine for them? What does normalcy look like for kids that are displaced? How
Okay.
do you kind of do
Yeah.
things with kids?
So let's go back to the kids. Kids have school requirements, and there's kids really crave a lot of routine. So is this on a busing route? How does a routine look like for children who are experiencing homelessness? Maybe you can talk about the family dynamic in that. Like, do kids are they literally like walking outside of the church and the bus is picking them up, and then like how this is something that I'm sure most people have
Basically,
never had to
yeah.
think about.
The resource center, they're walking out of the resource, like they're coming out of breakfast at 8:00.
Yeah.
They're coming in the resource and they're finalizing some things, getting there, and literally this is the house they lead
Okay.
to get on the bus. Now, in Pennsylvania, if you're homeless, they are required to
Right.
transfer the child to the appropriate school.
Yes.
Which, do you want your child on the bus that long or not? There are decisions that the parents have to make. And it is balance, because they are kids, they want to play, they want to have fun, and it's so wonderful when we can, I know personally, when I can look at their faces and see laughter in their eyes, that's what I try to watch for all the time, that they're still laughing, that
Yeah.
they're still
Right.
enjoying, and it's a balance, because we're running a business and there's all these other people and you've got children that want to
Right.
play, and it's we try to have toys and puppets, and we allow them to utilize the computers, and some go out to school, some are homeschooled. It's forever
Right.
changing, but it
Right.
is, it's amazing. It's really I don't know what the word is, but I often just chuckle when they get home from school. It's like your kids just came home from school, they come in the house, they get a snack. It's just
Yeah.
like, we're home, here
Yeah.
we go. And it's great that they think like that. And then
Yeah.
I think we try to treat it like a big camping trip sometimes,
Okay.
like an adventure,
Yeah.
so it's not,
So that helps
and
cope with it.
they do well, because I see
Yeah.
the families that come over here at night and they'll have their tea and hot chocolate and snack and have story time, and then they go to that's the nice thing right now with the families. We have special rooms that they can be in, so they can, when they retire, they can retire as a family, which
Okay.
is really we're very blessed
Sure.
to have that, you
Sure.
know, so, I think we try to make it, I hate that word, but as normal as possible.
I would use the word human.
I think that's a much better
You-
word,
which-
yes,
which-
thank you.
What
Yeah.
you've been able to do is help not only them to see their own humanity, but the rest of the community to see that homelessness is not this abstract issue. There's a person who has a life and has a family and has love and has needs just like anybody else. And so easily any of us could be in
Oh,
that
yeah.
situation.
It's a fine
And so
line.
you've been able to help remind people of their humanity in that. So I wanna thank you for what you're doing.
It's a higher being than me. And this school district is very supportive.
Yeah,
I must mention that the school district is
yes, I'm
is
sure.
wonderful at reaching out and assisting.
I'm sure.
They're very,
I'm sure.
we're very fortunate there too.
Are there any last things that you'd like to share about CARES or anything at all? The floor is open to you.
At least for me, not everyone, but a lot of people are always trying to thank me or say, what, you know, I'm the one that's really making out here as a general
Right.
rule, you know, at the end of the day, really it's not, it's just more rewarding than it is giving. Does
Sure.
that make sense?
Oh, yeah,
I think, yeah.
that's beautiful. Yeah, Pat, anything you wanna add?
I don't think so.
Okay. That's all right. Andrew?
I don't have much to add. I mean, I'm thankful for Pat and for Deb and for the board and for the work that's been done before they were even here at St. James. It is, I mean, like Deb said, it really is a blessing to be able to be a part of it.
And then Pastor Andrew's very easy to turn to when you
Yeah.
need some guidance too, which doesn't hurt either. Help.
Yeah, right, right, absolutely. Well, thank you, all three of you, for number one, just doing this interview, the podcast here. This is really helpful as the task force has really been trying to educate the rest of the Synod on what homelessness is, but also ways that congregations and individual members can be supportive of different organizations that are trying to address homelessness, not just as an issue, but also, again, as these are people. And so how do we live into our call of discipleship to love people, especially those on the margins of society? And so this is one of those efforts that we've been doing. It's kind of our series that we've been doing. So I'm just thrilled to have been able to highlight Gettysburg Cares and all of the things that are going on, that God has been utilizing you as a tool to really kind of spread grace and love and mercy and hope for people. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
You've honored us with the questions, and truly, if there's anyone that we can assist out there, an email, phone call away, and we're ready to go.
Wonderful. Well, thank you also for listening. And if you're watching on YouTube, thanks for watching. And again, this is the Housing Equity Task Force and one of our series of podcasts. And we thank you, and we ask you, please support the different organizations that we've been talking to. And if you're inspired to go out and start doing some things, you're not alone. Please reach out to the Synod. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to these wonderful folks as well. We're all more than happy to talk with you and give you some ideas and try to connect you with some support. And with that, thank you and have a great night.